So I run a weekly Pathfinder game. Surprise, surprise, I've talked about it a few times. But last night I had a really interesting encounter. They had a boss battle against a spellcaster, and the spellcaster was actually pretty well written this time around. My main issue that I've run into with precons, at least some of the earlier stuff from Pathfinder, is I found that they tend to write them with no real way of mitigating some of the attack possibilities that happen from the party. So oftentimes you end up with the spellcasters just standing on the ground. They were supposed to rely on a bunch of meat shields, which end up getting absolutely crushed by the party going through. Like, if the party's well built, it's not that hard to do, and if they get some really lucky rolls, it's really not hard to do. And then they don't have like fly casts on them or anything like that, and I tend to just run the book as written. If I'm building my own encounter, I'll build it obviously with the mindset of, I want to provide a challenge to my players. Here's what they're not good against. Here's what I'll throw against them. But they still have answers to this. This just makes it a little more difficult for them to actually succeed. But this one actually had the spellcaster like controlling party members, flying around, throwing nasty effects in AoEs, and throwing really nasty effects in targeted instances. And at any given point, the party could have actually just been in a state of TPK, but they all actually really stuck to their guns and looked at exactly what they could do, stuck to it, and succeeded. And it was really impressive to watch them actually like going through it and overcoming the challenge, because it really should have actually ended very poorly. If they had just been like, well, I guess we give up. We don't even try it because we can't do what we usually do. And no, they tried everything in their toolbox just to make it work, and it did. And a lot of stuff ended up failing just because of dice rolls, but like they still kept going and going and going and just trying different solutions and working on it. And yeah. So it was fun. I really enjoyed the encounter, and I really hope that they did too. But the encounter isn't technically done. I have to do a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes between weeks, and they already know I do. But I have to do a bunch of stuff behind the scenes between the weeks and come back to them with even more because this is so nasty of an encounter. They pushed the BBEG to basically retreat, and now the BBEG is going to come back basically ready for even more fight, and they will have to deal with that. So yeah, maybe I'll do another update about it next week once we're actually done playing that session, but it should be the end of the book, it should be the end of the adventure, and then we will be on to the third book of, so I'm running the Shattered Star, but it's very interesting, and I'm liking it, and it's very different from my experience of running Rise of the Runelords, which was the first ever Pathfinder adventure path. And it had admittedly some things that were a little bit of growing pains, but a lot of promise in the book and a lot of interesting stuff happens. I definitely say it's worth running that one and checking it out. And checking out some of the ones that are connected to it, because everything I've heard that seems to be connected to these storylines is actually really, really interesting and really worth checking out. So do yourselves a favor if you play Pathfinder and check out those adventure paths. Be excellent to each other, be excellent to yourselves, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.